Okay, so I guess just a brief introduction. I think I recognise most of you here. You've been here before, so you know the routine. But very briefly, the suggestion is that this is all there is, and it's wholeness already. And this wholeness, this is apparent wholeness, of course. This wholeness is just apparently everything, and it's just unconditionally free already. Everything, whatever is appearing, whatever is apparently happening there, is unconditional freedom already. Even if what's happening there is appearing as a kind of a limited sort of or a kind of a sense that there is something which needs to find something, or if there is a sense that something's missing about this, about life, whatever you want to call this, about the appearance, that something's lost or missing. If that's what's appearing there, then that's actually unconditional freedom appearing as that. If there is a report from there, that there is a sense that there is someone there who is separate, or who is kind of living in this sense of being separate or separation, that is unconditional freedom, wholeness appearing as that. So there is nothing that isn't already what's truly longed for. What the seeker's looking for, of course, is something which it can know. There is no knowing of this as being wholeness. There is no knowing of this as being unconditionally free. That is the freedom. When something's known, it's limited to the parameters, to the boundaries of that knowing. It's limited to what the knower thinks it knows about what's happening. And knowing is just a very limited sort of way to experience what's apparently happening. So when the word experience is used in this meeting, conceptually, it's meant in the same way as experience, something that's known as being experienced. So for the person, for the me, for the individual, there is this sense of this is known. I know that I am here. I know that I am in a meeting. I know that I am listening to someone talking. I know that I'm hearing a motorbike going past outside. It just claims everything. The individual claims everything that appears and is just appearing to happen as a real happening by knowing it as an experience. That's how it apparently claims everything. I know that this is happening, and that I know that this is something real, because that's what I seem to be experiencing. I know I am real. I know I am here and I am real. And I am living in this sort of separate world of need, something lost, sense of something lost, something missing, because that feels real to me. That's my experience. And what the me can never see, or will never see, is that all of that, even if it's appearing as that, that is the unconditional freedom that's truly longed for already. So in that sense, of course, then there is nothing to do. But even worse than that, there's no one who could do anything about whatever is appearing to happen there. So if there is a kind of an experience of a me happening there, there is the sense to be someone happening there, then that's just what's happening. But because that sense, the me, is illusory, then of course there is nothing that can be done, because there is no one that can do it. So there's nothing to find, because this is the unconditional freedom already. And there is already no one to find anything or to do anything about whatever is appearing. So in that sense, there is just no possibility whatsoever of there being an additional happening, like an awakening, or that there's going to be an additional happening that is going to be this liberation, that is going to be this me even falling away, and then what is going to be revealed. That's all a part of the illusion, that there is someone who needs to drop away, of course. The dropping away, or the end of the individual is the obviousness that it just doesn't exist at all, not in any form, not as a true self or a false self or a higher self or a lower self, or a self as being just pure consciousness, or an I am as being pure awareness, or just being the space within which experience arises. All of that sort of stuff is all just still speaking to the dream, that there is someone who could realize themselves as that kind of state, or existing in that way. That's all just still part of the illusion. But what can seemingly happen is that whole sense to be a someone can just energetically melt away. And then what's revealed in that is that there just never was anyone there. And that's a seeming paradox in the message. What that's describing isn't a paradox, but it's a seeming paradox in the message. It sounds paradoxical to the individual when they hear that, because there is actually nothing to fall away already. And even that appearance was the unconditional freedom that's truly longed for, just taking the form of a kind of a limited, trapped sense of being. And even that is the unconditional freedom that's longed for. Okay, over to you. And a hand up. Hello, Susie. I think you were in first with your hand up.
Hi, Neil.
Hi.
Hi. I've got hives, and so my mouth's all swollen.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So that's what I want to talk to you about. So I know that there's no,
Okay.
before and after, and there's no consequences, but seemingly it feels like I've eaten something, and out of that, I've got hives. So could you speak of that? Because it seems like, if I eat peanut butter, I get an allergic reaction. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's what's apparently happening. So there's no real before and after, but there's an apparent before and after. But that apparent before and after is really only this appearing as a memory of before, and then a kind of projection of an apparent after, that there is going to be a something after this. But of course, that's not actually known, of course. So there's just an apparent memory of, oh yeah, when this body eats peanut butter, apparently hives happen. Yeah. So then eating peanut butter may be avoided in the apparent future. Yeah, there's no one doing any of that. That's just what happens.
Okay, so that's not a consequence then. It's not a consequence, so.
Well, apparently it is, but only as an apparent consequence. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is just an appearance. It has actually no reality at all in that sense.
Yeah.
It is just what appears. It's just an appearance, what seems to be happening. But for the individual, because it experiences itself as being something here, it's then kind of living in relation to everything, including kind of space and time. So it has this sort of sense that it is living and moving through space along a timeline. And everything that happens along that timeline, every memory, every idea of the future, and every kind of concept or belief or experience about what's apparently happening now is experienced as something real, or that is the experience for the individual, that this is something real because I am here and I am experiencing this. That's how I know that it's real. But that, of course, is the illusion, that there is someone there experiencing that as the realness that the individual imagines that it is living in. And when there is no one, then that's just what apparently happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Oh, well, I
Thank
hope you
you.
get better soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
The interesting thing about that, just as a concept as well, even ideas of the future are based on memories of the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just a concept. That's not in any way meant to be helpful. But there,
Yeah.
you can sort of, even just as a concept, you know, I think even the individual can start to get a suspicion that sort of time isn't exactly what it experiences it as being. Oh, there is a future. I know if I do this now, then this and this and this is going to happen. I know if I let go of this pen, it will drop. It's just, but the individual knows that because that's what's happened every time a pen has
That's in the
been dropped in the
mind.
past. Well, that's
Yeah.
what's happened every time a pen is dropped in the past. The individual actually has no idea that if this pen is let go of, it doesn't float up.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it would have
Turns
to
out it
refer
didn't
to
that
that
time,
from
but
there.
there's this, I mean, you know, it just sort of points out how thin the reality of the individual is, where it's living in a real past and a real future. And then there is therefore a real now being experienced. It just sort of points out that that's thin. It's just a little game, really. But it's an interesting concept. But really, when the individual falls away, then there's just no sense of a something existing in relation to anything else. So there's no that sort of sense of a something as a location, which would then be moving through space as time. It's just not there. There's just nothing there to be knowing and experiencing that as the reality that it is for the individual. And so therefore it's just what seemingly is and isn't, of course. It's just what appears to be happening. Everything else is just what appears. It's just completely empty. The pen is completely empty. This is empty.
Yeah.
It's appearing as a pen or as pen. Emptiness penning.
Yeah. 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 Everything, I guess everything is empty, isn't it? You know, everything is empty.
It's empty fullness. Yeah. Empty fullness.
Yeah. Empty fullness. Yeah. Nothing appearing as
it's
something.
Absolutely empty and abundantly full simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, you know, really that can't be understood.
No, of course not. No.
No.
It's not an
No.
experience. It can't be
No.
known because it's not an experience. It's not something.
No.
Because
It's very
in the end, when there is
incomprehensible,
just,
isn't it?
well, in the end, when there is just empty fullness, then there's no one left having an experience of that. That's just how it apparently is.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you, Susie. And someone else had a hand up, I saw. Hello?
Hi, Neil.
Hello, hello. Hello, hi. Katie.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Okay. So with and it's not all the time, but with hearing this message, I have like a lot of fear that can come up, and also sometimes like feeling kind of like I'm bouncing off the walls, or feeling like you know, I don't know what to do, or feeling like crying, you know, and I imagine, you know, like that's part of the wholeness too. I can, but yeah, there's like a strong sense of worrying around that, like worrying, for example, like I've had the summer off and I'm starting a new job in a little bit. And so I have so much fear too around, and I know this is like very about the person, so maybe there's not much to be said about it, but just so much fear that I'm not going to be also like, maybe I'm just trying to give a reason to the fear, but that I'm not going to be able to do this job that's, you know, pretty demanding, and I've already started doing work for it, so I can see like, okay, I'm already doing the work. I don't know what to say. Yeah. Yeah, I just,
well, there's no answer in the sense of something you're looking for to help with that. I mean, fear is just what apparently happens, but what I would say is that when there is an individual, then it does seem as though there is something that then sort of takes a hold of the fear energetically and sort of engages with the fear energetically and feeds into that fear, and then the fear becomes sort of gets turned into a story about, you know, what to do about the fear, how do I manage the fear, why is there fear,
yeah,
how do I learn not to have fear. So it almost in a way creates a kind of an additional layer of neurosis on top of just what would be just naturally fear arising about starting a new job, or whatever it is, whatever the fear seems to be about. Yeah. So it just becomes a whole neurotic thing then, fear for the individual, you know, or a feeling anxious. You know, feeling anxious gets turned into anxiety, feeling fearful all the time turns into, I don't know, like a phobia or agoraphobia or something like that, because it just, my sense is that when there is an individual, it just sort of feeds into that and just sort of starts to just feed it and feed it and feed it and feed it, you know. Takes it out dancing, as Tony would say, when fear arises. When there is no one, there's just no one doing that. So fear may naturally arise, but in a way, it's just not that, it doesn't have that sort of neurotic response to the fear, because it's not happening to something or to someone. It's just naturally fear arising.
yeah,
And there may be a response to that or not, like, I don't know, running away or not.
yeah. And I think the fear is also, it seems to me, though maybe this is just the me trying to know, but it's also fear around this message. Like I don't,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
of course I'm like irrevocably like drawn to it
Yeah.
too, but
Mm-hmm.
but I also at the same time I'm like, what
Yeah, no,
what's what,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
what the hell to do about it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally. As if there's someone there that could choose to listen to the message or to not listen to the message. And the individual never hears this message, actually. Every single one of you here, if the individual there, I'm assuming there is an individual there, if it heard this message, you would all log off. You wouldn't be able to run away fast enough. Because this is talking about the death of the individual. It's talking about the end of the individual and the end of you and your life, in that sense, that there is something here who is having a life in that sense. But that's the illusion already. There is already no one having a life. There is already no one choosing to have fear or to not have fear, or to start a new job. That's just what appears to happen. That's just wholeness appearing as all of that. Even as that sort of neurotic response that the individual may have to a fear about something. That's wholeness too, just arising as that.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah, when people say this is a very lovely message, I know what they mean. It is lovely on the one hand, but then on the other hand, it's absolutely awful and terrifying. And it's absolutely not what the individual wants to hear at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's both. It's lovely and terrible.
Yeah, and terrifying.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Katie. And Freddie.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Freddie.
When you speak about the death of the individual,
Yeah.
are you talking about the death of the psychological self? You know, the ego, the belief as a separate self, or are you talking about the death of the physical body?
Well,
as well?
all of it. It's all over. It's all over. But I would add to that, just to be clear, that it isn't the psychology that's creating the self. The psychology, the apparent psychology, sort of responds to the sense that there is someone. And when that sort of sense of being someone apparently falls away, then there's nothing for the psychology to really respond to in that sense. It's not there anymore.
But the death of the individual, you're actually describing the physical death as well as the psychological.
Well, all of it, however that may appear to manifest. The energetic sense to be someone, because it's an energy, it's not a thought or a belief system that's just created this concept of a self in the psychology. No. It's an energy. It seems to be a lived sense that there is someone here in the body, as the body, whichever way you like. There's someone here. And as soon as that sort of energy arises, it then immediately, automatically creates this sense of individuality, that there is someone here and it is separate from everything else. There's here and then everything else.
Yeah. So can that perception be dropped, that I'm a separate self?
Well, no, because there isn't actually a self, but it's not existing as a perception in the first place. So if the self was some kind of psychological construct, then yes, one would think one could do something in the psychology, or something in the psychology could happen and this sense of self could fall away. I think they call that mental illness of some kind, like disassociation, that kind of thing, personality disorder, personality type disorders, which involve sort of disassociation, that kind of thing. And my feeling is that's still someone there who has perhaps something's happened in the psychology where they feel that they aren't, that they are detached, or they have detached from life, or not able to connect with life in some way. And that's not what we're talking about in this case. What we're talking about, it's an energy that seems to arise in the tiny child, a contracted sense of something being, living, existing here, which seems to automatically create this sense of an individual, and then goes on to become this whole kind of personal identity. And yes, of course, there's going to be thoughts in the psychology about who am I, what do I like, what do I do, what, you know, where am I going, what is this all about? Yeah, of course, that all sort of manifests mentally in a way. Yeah, but that's the if we use the term psychology, that's the psychology responding to this energy. It's not creating the energy.
Psychosis aside, in the healthy person, it's the development of the ego that we're talking about, which is the strong sense of a self. But
yes, I think so. I'm not an expert on psychology, but yes, I've always thought that the ego is almost like what the individual likes to present to the world, whether that's right or wrong in psychological terms or psychiatry terms, I don't know, but doesn't matter. It's like the ego is, there is a sense of I am here, and that feels threatening. So then there's this sort of ego that sort of keeps me safe, and this is what I like to present to the world. Hello, my name's Mr. So and so, and shake people's hands. Do you know what I mean? It feels like that sort of outward projection of the individual moving around the world. It will sort of present lots of, it's like the, you know, the god of many faces in that sense.
That setup can be seen through, though, can't it? The sense of a separate ego self can be seen through.
I think, yes, I think there can be a sense that, and I think this is where these sort of awareness type teachers go, is that there can be a sense of revealing or exposing the kind of the outward projections in that way. Yeah, that there's, you know, all the masks that the individual likes to wear and present to the world. Yes, there can sort of be some sense that that's what's going on there. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and there can then be a kind of, oh, I'm not the masks that I present to the world, or I'm not this ego. I'm this ever present, ever aware, you know, divine snowflake of consciousness, or something lovely like that. Which is exactly what the individual wants to hear, by the way.
I'm trying to go somewhere with this, that if I let go of if the ego is seen through, and let's say that the fears of the ego, as we were discussing, fears, were projections from the ego mind, or through the ego mind. Once the ego is dropped and I don't see myself as separate, and there's a perception of wholeness or oneness, which I think that's what non-duality is, wholeness. Is it not possible to put a positive spin on this existence?
Well, people do. Yeah. They will tell you that that's how to be happy all the time. That the secret to eternal happiness is to realize yourself as pure awareness or pure consciousness. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, by all means, feel free to give it a try. Nothing wrong with that. It may even work for a few minutes.
Yeah. Is there anything positive to be said about the boundlessness, the boundless freedom?
Well, it really isn't about a sort of a thinking of something in a positive light or a negative light. There's no right or wrong in it. That's just what apparently happens, of course. That's not what this is saying. That's a completely different conversation to the conversation we're having now. Yes, we can indulge conceptually in a little bit. We can have a little bit of verbal, I was going to say a rude word, but, you know, we can have a verbal dialogue about that and, you know, chew the cud around all of those sorts of concepts. But I mean, it's all meaningless in the end, because of course there is no one. It's all happening in the dream or the illusion that there is someone who could possibly do any of that sort of thing anyway. But I think that's what those sorts of teachers and teachings are about. And they will say, you know, if you can let go of your ego, if you can let go of the thoughts that you think you are, if you can let go of the self that you think you are, then you will be happy, you will be content. And yes, in some cases, you will realize or have an experience of non-duality, but that's a completely contradictory statement, because non-duality isn't an experience.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, thanks, Freddie. And Anita.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, there is no separation. And it's not in this question and answering. It's more the energy. Yeah, we call it energy. Yeah, actually, at this moment, I don't know what to say, so that's it.
It's okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not about the questions and the answers. In fact, there are no answers to the questions. The questions happen. They as long as there is this sense to be someone in separation, then there will be questions of some kind. But really, yes, everything is just energetic in that sense. This is just, and this is, if it's not about a something, but we could say it's about an energy. It would be closer to say that than it is about understanding the dialogue and the conversation. A bit like I was just saying to the previous gentleman, you know, we can chew concepts, we can, you know, we can gas away about awareness and things like this and whatever. But that's just noise.
Yeah.
This is energetic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Anita.
Neil? Oh,
Hello.
Susie, is it okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi,
So with this energetic, I don't know, thing also happening, if no one would even ask a question, like let's say we would have a gathering where for 1 hour no one would say anything. You would present your introduction, and after that, silence.
I can, well, or not even that. I mean, I can save your breath a little bit.
Yeah.
Save your breath for cooling your porridge, as they say in Scotland and Ireland. It's just indefinable. It's completely unknowable what this is. So even saying that this is an energy or this is about an energy, that makes it sound like a something to the mind, of course. But no, that's meant in the term that it's just not something conceptually. It's not about understanding something conceptually. It's completely, what we're talking about is completely beyond understanding, and it is already everything. It's even that thought that popped up there just now.
There didn't even pop up a thought. I guess that was just like this already everything, something, it just hit home for some, yeah, just hit home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's already home. This is already home. So there isn't something to hit home because there's nothing that isn't home. And home can't hit itself because it's just home. And Mohammed, I think you were next.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Nice to meet, to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you too. Yeah.
After listening to this message, there's still a question arise.
Yeah.
One question is, what happens to the sense of me, to the contracted energy when during sleep, deep sleep, or dream night?
Well, who would know? There's no way to know. There's no way to know, because of course in sleep, you know, the individual isn't there. But in the same way, with what we're talking about with this, it's the same thing. The individual isn't there, so there is nothing to know what that contracted energy is, or where it goes, or what it does, or anything like that. It has no intention at all. And even that contracted energy is boundless, limitless, unconditionally free energy appearing just as a form of this contraction. And it's actually a real shock that it's even there. It's a real shock. It's just no idea.
So during dream, there is another individual in the dream night.
Well, well, who would know what happens when you're asleep, because you're asleep?
Yeah, but during dream night, there is another dream, another world, and another me in the dream.
Well, if we wanted to get a little bit as far as scientific as I'm able to, then, well, when the body is asleep, then the brain apparently has dreams, doesn't it? That's just the brain having dreams while the body is asleep.
So the dream happen in the brain.
Does the dream of the individual happen in the dream at night? Is that what you're asking?
No. I mean, there is another individual in the dream.
Oh, okay. Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe for the individual, yes, and there may be a dreaming of that they are an individual in the dream. But I don't know. I don't think dreams are like that. I think dreams seem to be a lot more sort of abstract and weird. So when the body does wake up from a nighttime dream, it sort of can reflect on the dream or what it can remember from the dream. And usually it's a bit weird, isn't it? You know, it's a bit like, oh, I had a dream I was floating or flying or something, and that's not the individual's everyday experience. So quite often dreams are just kind of dismissed as a kind of, well, that was just a dream happening. It didn't seem to, it certainly doesn't have the reality that the dream of the individual does for the individual, I don't think. Because the dream of the individual for the individual in the dream, it seems that the dream is the only reality for the individual.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Mohammed. And Susie.
Hi, Neil.
Hello, hi.
So there is no duality then?
No, of course not, which also means there's no non-duality, of course.
So because everything is already whole and one, and then it's just a dream, the dream of separation, really.
The dream is that there is an individual who is living in separation, yes. But just to be clear with that, the individual is separation. There isn't an individual creating separation or dreaming of separation. The individual is separation, and that's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems here that like it's more of a loss rather than
apparently
anything else, because it's already the case. Because here there was a very strong sense of loneliness and feeling alone, and what's funny about that, I guess, is that that wasn't worked on, that, you know, letting it go, trying to manipulate it in any way, trying to change it. And yet over the last, I guess, like, there's about you know, I guess it was so hard to even think of time, but it was like one day I was sitting here and talking to some friends, and I didn't realize that I hadn't seen anyone for like 3.5 weeks. And, you know, that's nothing special, that it wasn't, that I didn't feel alone. But what was really crazy to me was that it was unnoticed. And that was to me was the thing that really made me weep, because it was unnoticed. And for something that seemed so, to this character, was such a thing, and then just to see that it's just crazy. It's just
yeah, when the individual is gone, there's just no one left to be alone.
Yeah, that's how it feels. I mean, I can't say that, like, I guess it's seen here that it's just so obvious that it's just what's happening, and there's no one in control. It's just what's happening. But I guess energetically, you know, I'm not really good with the non-dual talk, but I guess energetically it just feels like that it'll be more of a deepening, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea, but yeah, it just feels that way. Because it doesn't feel like there's anywhere else to get to, but there just feels like, and also too, like before there seemed to be like, if I wasn't grasping anything that was said, there was this sort of desperation, but now it's sort of like relaxed. Like if there's something that's not really understood, so what?
Yeah, that can happen. Yeah, it can be a relaxing of the need of the seeking. Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
But that's just what's apparently happening, of course. And it doesn't mean, and it has no meaning. It doesn't mean anything.
No, nothing has any meaning. Yeah.
No, because it's not going somewhere. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So if there's a relaxation happening, that doesn't mean that one is getting closer to liberation or unconditional freedom, because it's all
it's
there is
everything
already.
Yeah, it's already whole, and it's everything. It's everything, you know, because here before it felt like that if there was a bad feeling, oh well, that means I have to seek again, or I have to do something. But it's everything. It's not me. It's a sensation. It's not my sensation. It's a sensation of anger. It's a sensation, but it's not mine.
Yeah, for the individual, the whole sort of seeking seems to be like Chutes and Ladders, the game, the kids game. Did you ever play that? You're going along, you're rolling a dice, and then all of a sudden you roll the right number and you shoot up 3 levels, and then you roll the dice again and go along another 3 spaces, and oh no, you go back down 3 levels on the shoot, or 4 levels, and it's always like this sort of game of Chutes and Ladders, the seeking for the individual. Yeah, in the end, there is just simply nothing existing which could know anything about how it is or how this is.
Yeah.
There's no additional knowing on top of this or what appears to happen.
Yeah.
Which could have an experience of this apparent happening, which is why it is just unknowing. It's completely unknowable, or it is unknowing.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie. And another hand up. Would you like to come on and ask a question?
Yeah, it's me again.
Oh, hello again. Hi.
Yes, I just heard you say that the individual is separation.
Yeah, apparent. So the apparent individual is the apparent separation.
Yeah, but then I heard you say that there is no individual.
Yeah.
So kind of a contradiction.
That's the paradox in the message. Yeah. Yeah, because for the individual, it seems to be absolutely real that they are a real person, and that they are living in this kind of dualistic world, where there is this sense of something lost or missing or incomplete about this or the world or about themselves, because that just seems to be how that experience is, for no reason, of course.
Well, without the story of anything being missing, we still have the body mind, which is part of the dream, I know, but we still have these bodies. I mean, you can't say there is no one here when we're looking at one another.
Well, that's just an apparent body. That's just an appearance of bodies. The only story really in the end is that there is an individual. The individual is the story. The individual is the story, and it seems to live and move within the story of itself. But that there is an individual in the body is a story. Living in separation, that's really the story.
But it's just lifing, isn't it?
Well, one could say so, yes, but then there is no knowing of that. There's no knowing here that this is just life apparently lifing. So there's not a walking down the street or along the river going, oh, this is just lifing. Isn't that amazing? No, it's just what apparently happened.
That's what I would say to myself.
Exactly, yeah. So as long as there is that sense to be someone, there's always going to be that kind of dialogue about what's appearing, yeah. Because there's always that sense that it's appearing for someone. And I would say, as long as there is that sense that there is someone, there is going to be a sense that this someone is separate from everything else. And then there's no rules to this, but then usually the response to that is then going to be, for some people, not for everyone, is to then try and find a way to fix that or solve that because it feels unnatural or unsatisfactory.
I think depending on how strong the ego is, or how much fear is within the ego, that sense of ego is either going to be pretty pronounced, or if the ego is seen through, then it doesn't have to be acted upon in any way at all.
Well, so, really, ego is part of the story that there is someone to be having an ego in the first place. So really, ego is just a part of the illusion that there is someone having an ego, or that there is someone who could see through their ego.
It doesn't seem that I'm going to be able to get it. And
well,
yet,
there is no you, and there is no you to get anything already. What you long for is already everything.
Yes, I understand that, but
that's the problem.
You feel like a mirror who does get it.
No, I don't. That's the thing. No, there's no understanding of getting it or not getting it here. No, that's the thing. No, it's just how it apparently is. But there is a memory of a time where there was something here trying to get it. But what also seemingly became obvious is that all of that was it appearing as looking for it, not getting it, looking for it. It was just always here. It's just, in the end, it's just undeniable and obvious, but not as a knowing. The need of the seeker is never satisfied. So the revealing of this, if you like, when the apparent individual apparently dies, then that longing isn't at that point satisfied. It's just the end of the longing. Because it's just no need, not necessary. If this is everything already, couldn't possibly be anything else or anywhere else, then how could there be any longing? A longing for what? Another what is. There would have to be another what is somewhere else. Well, there'd have to be two what is existing at the same time. And let's not get into a conversation about parallel dimensions and multiverse theories and stuff. Because who cares? Thank you, Freddie. Anita.
Yeah, I guess there are a lot of teachings about body, mind, and to be more in the body and all that kind of stuff, looking at your mind, looking at your thoughts, blah, blah, blah. But this is completely not about that.
Well, it's not about anything, but it is in a way a pointing to everything, or it is everything too. So it's all of those things too. What's, what is the natural reality, or what is and isn't, I should say. It's just, it can appear as all those things too, of course, teachers, teachings, whatever.
Oh yeah, but all those teachings, that doesn't work. So
well, the individual doesn't see it that way. The individual sees a teaching as something it can engage with and get somewhere with, or a therapeutic process of some kind. This is going to be, for the individual, what it longs for is wholeness. So it will, whatever endeavor it seemingly takes on, it's looking to find the freedom in that endeavor. Or it's looking for the wholeness in that endeavor, that if I engage in some kind of therapeutic process, then I will feel more whole. This will feel more whole. My life will be more complete if I do this, or if I add this experience to it.
Yeah, this is already wholeness.
Of course it is already, yeah. Even appearing as that, that's wholeness, even
Yeah.
appearing as that, yeah. Wholeness is never left, it's never gone anywhere.
No. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Oh,
Hi again.
again.
Can you talk about, you have posted in Facebook once, for the individual, there is a subject, the seer and the seen and the seeing.
Yes.
When there's when the seer dropped, the seen and the seen and the seeing are one.
No, it's not like the seen and the seen and the seer are becoming one. When the individual falls away, then it's just kind of obvious that there is nothing seeing what is seen. There's just seeing. So there isn't a sense of a something that is looking, seeing something else over there.
And when the individual drop, then there's just the seen.
There's just seeing. Seeing just apparently happens, yeah. There's no sense that seeing is happening to something, or that something is seeing. It's just seeing.
Would you say there's only what apparently happening, or there's just seeing?
Well, seeing is what apparently happens.
Okay.
And if it is a tree that is being seen, then that's what's appearing. That's what's appearing to happen. Even if there was blindness here, that would be what's appearing to happen. Even if these eyes couldn't see, then that would be what's appearing to happen.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey Neil.
Hello.
I still don't know how to put the hand up, so I'm just
okay. That's all right.
talking. Could you say something about resistance? I feel that it's somehow very tied up to the sense of being me. There's a sense of, I would say, longing, and a sense of like a resistance. That's a very kind of an energetic sense of.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I was talking about earlier, the me never hears this. In fact, it rejects it. It's not just resisting this. It completely rejects this message, this communication, completely rejects it. Yeah. And that maybe that's felt in the body. Yeah. As you know, that sense of what can happen as a response to this energetically is there can be more of a contraction. That can happen in some cases.
Yeah,
as
it's a
part
kind
of
of
that rejection.
Yeah, it's a sense of kind of hiding, like
Okay.
something is trying to hide from that. Or
Okay. Well, of course, there is already no one hiding, but if there is a sense of a resistance, then that's just what's appearing to happen, of course. But the individual is constantly rejecting this, constantly. Even if this is heard and there is a reported relaxation when this is heard, that's still a way of rejecting it because that's not what we're talking about.
how come?
Well, because we're not talking about someone becoming relaxed or relaxing their way into wholeness or liberation. No, wholeness is all there is. Wholeness is the sense of rejecting or the sense of resistance. That's what's longed for too.
Right. So regardless of how the body mind kind of reacts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of not related.
No, this is unconditional freedom,
Okay.
which means it can appear as anything. It can and does apparently appear as anything. A sense of resistance, even the sense of being a separate person can even appear in that, as that form, as a contracted, limited sense or energy. But that's but what the individual can never accept is that is what it longs for. Well, it's not what it longs for, but that's what's longed for. What's longed for, appearing just as that. That's the thing the individual never sees or can never see, as long as it is apparently there. That this already, however it's appearing, is perfectly what's longed for. It is the harmony of wholeness already. And because it is unconditionally free, it can appear as a limitation or as a resistance.
Right. So then the resistance in a way is not a problem.
No, of course not. No, nothing is a problem in that sense. No, of course. No, that's just what's apparently happening there. That's wholeness just appearing in that form there. Or that's just wholeness appearing in that form. There isn't a there either, of course.
Yeah, I think I've just had some kind of a judgment about, oh, I shouldn't be resisting what is happening.
Oh, yes.
Then it becomes this kind of a...
Yeah. If the resistance, oh, I'm not getting it. Openness, sense of openness, oh, I am getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
People phone me and say, oh, I'm feeling really contracted today. I'm feeling really contracted. I'm really feeling like a me today. And then they'll phone me a couple of weeks later and say, oh, do you know what? I've been really relaxed. I've hardly felt like a me at all. It's just okay, that's what's happening there. That's fine. But of course, that's all still happening as the dream. That's just what's apparently happening there. There is no me already.
No, that's good news.
Well,
puzzling, but
maybe.
but
I guess so.
yeah. I don't know. It just somehow takes off that pressure of, oh, I should feel relaxed.
Yeah. I remember when I first heard this message, something here just went, thank fuck. I just felt like I was off the hook, you know, the years and years and years of discipline and seeking. And although I wasn't always the most disciplined seeker, and I certainly had my years where I had no discipline about anything whatsoever, to say the least. Yeah, there was just a sense, you know, even before it had been heard, so to speak, just of just being, oh, thank God I'm off the hook. I don't have to be a beautiful snowflake of awareness. Thank God for that. I don't have to be a unique expression of God, or I don't have to be a unique expression of consciousness expressing itself as this consciousness. Always felt like a lot of responsibility. So it's just, oh, thank goodness. It's like the last game in town, though, isn't it? You know, even as Freddie was saying earlier, you know, even if one thinks they've dropped their ego, then the game then just becomes about being the, you know, the egoless being, you know, which is pure ego again. If you think of it in that sense, you know, it's the last game in town, and it's the greatest game there is. Yeah, and it's all illusory. It's a game with no one playing.
Makes me happy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Laura.
Is it okay from the timing?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the first...
actually, Laura, no,
Yeah.
it has gone 5 o'clock. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I couldn't. It's too easy.
I like your humor. I like your humor, so I'm okay with it if it hits me. It's good. So now it's like I don't know what I wanted to say. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
good.
So...
We'll finish then. No,
no, there was just like, you can't see any separate individuals, right? When you are holding this meeting, you can't see separate individuals.
No, of course not. No, or walking down the street, there just are no individuals. There just is no individual. No.
So, and there is also no agenda in these kind of meeting right now. So it's not that you have something which you want to bring across and we have to get it something. This whole setup is not happening as well, right?
Well, no, of course not, because there is nothing to get. No. No. And you know, some people really do like to get into that whole thing. Well, why do you do it? Well, maybe it's just enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like amazing.
Why do anything? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why
yeah.
pick blackberries and
yeah.
It's nice. You know? There's no why, of course. I'm just teasing a little bit, but yeah. Why not? The classic diversion technique: answer a question with another question.
The why not?
Why not?
Diversion.
Yeah. Well, why not do that? But really, why not? Okay, unless there's anyone who would like to ask something else.
Neil, I'll ask something else if you're going to be.
Yeah, sure. Come on in.
If you're going to go over the time limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So regarding blackberries and doing all these things, like, you know, who knows? But basically, the reason the deer goes and eats rose bushes, the deer's not thinking rose bushes, it just likes to. It goes towards, if you will, things just kind of happen, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. It seems to be like every subconscious entity is, it's just happening, but it seems like that's kind of the goal of everything. So like the question would be is, you know how they say chop wood, carry water before liberation. So before liberation, maximize pleasure, minimize pain. After liberation, what? It's always impersonal, but isn't it the same? Isn't it the same thing?
Well, there just isn't a before and after liberation. So if you say chop wood, carry water in the sense of nothing changes because there isn't a before and after liberation, then yes, of course, yeah. But no, there isn't just a kind of a, oh, well, that's that, then let's carry on chopping wood and carrying water. No, it's just, there's no actual liberation in the end, of course. So no before and after.
So that model just, it's impersonal anyway. So that just kind of continues the maximizing pleasure, minimizing pain. It just,
well,
there's
what's obvious when the apparent individual apparently dies. May get to a stage where I don't have to say apparent all the time, but just keep it going for now. So when the individual dies, it's just obvious that's how it's always been, apparently, of course. There was no one ever chopping wood or carrying water. And there is no one to become liberated. So liberate, I think I put in somewhere near the beginning of the book that I wrote, a little book I wrote, is liberation is the end of the need for liberation. Because it's the end of the whole sense, feeling, experience that there is something that isn't unconditional freedom already.
And the thing, I'll say the thing, the apparent thing that's asking these questions and all these little boxes, it's just some little thought, I guess, to use words, some little thought, it's a flashlight seeking something, and then it seeks, oh, I just need to not know anything.
Yes, okay, well, it's actually nothing asking questions there. It's wholeness there asking questions, apparently. I've forgotten what I was going to say, but yes, that's just nothing asking questions. It's nothing having the experience that there is something that needs to know what wholeness is.
Can you say that again? Nothing having the experience?
Well, the questions come out of the experience that wholeness is lost. And that's an illusion. Wholeness isn't lost. So the questions are an attempt to find what the seeker is looking for. And the seeker imagines that by asking the questions, in one way or another, imagines that by asking questions, there's going to be a response or an answer, and it's suddenly going to be seen, and wholeness is going to descend upon the person who asks the right question at the right time. Or there's going to be a falling away. No, that's all a part of a lovely story, that the fairy tale, nighttime, bedtime story that the individual likes to read to itself. No, it's over already. So there is no liberation in that sense. There's no happening because it's just not needed, just not necessary. This, what is, doesn't need any additional happening, including liberation.
Because the wholeness posing as a separate individual believes there's going to be a conclusion towards this knowledge, but there's no knowing, and then here there's no knowing, and there's never going to be any knowing of, you know, I don't know, who knows what's what's happening right now.
Well,
There's-
there may be an apparent knowing there, but all the apparent knower knows is itself to be here. That's all it knows. Doesn't know anything about anything else. Doesn't know anything about computer, mouses, microphones, conversation. Doesn't know anything about that. All it apparently experiences or knows, it's the same thing really, is this experience to be here, present. That's it. And then therefore, by being present,
sprouts.
having an experience of everything else. And that is the illusion, that there is someone, an individual there, who is having this experience of itself as being here, present, aware of everything else.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Right, okay then, we'll end there. Thank you, folks.